think the old one might still be up there. We're live now. We're going to wait till a few people jump on. We are absolutely live. Little bit of a hiccup, I guess, Joel. I don't know. I've been really learning to pivot lately.
That's the story of life, man.
Man, let's see if we can. Yeah, let's see if we can get some people. I'm going to say hello, see if there are people here. I don't know if the old broadcast. We got 8 people in here now. We'll give it a few minutes till everybody jumps on.
This is cool. Also, I'm like, where are the people? Or how do I see the people? Private chat.
Let's go here. So the private chat is here. You should be able to go and see the comments. There we go. Meredith, Heron, Brooke, welcome. Welcome back. Welcome back to us to a live with Joey and my special guest, A Soul with Joel. We're gonna try this all over again. I'm gonna laugh it off. Pivot. Rachel's funny. We gotta pivot. Here we are. All right, we got 20. We'll give it another 5 minutes. Then we're gonna get you to reintroduce yourself, my brother. Sure. And we're gonna jump right into it. Nothing like breaking the ice, like a little technological mishap.
Yeah, keeping us on our toes, right?
Absolutely,
our toes
for sure. Okay, Joel, let's try this again. Give us a little bit about who you are, and we'll jump into the rest after.
Hello, beautiful souls. My name is A Soul called Joel, and my intention with all that I do is to be a conduit for grounding, healing, and transformation, music, poetry, and meditation.
Damn.
Really.
Oof. It's always so good when I hear you, hello, beautiful souls. It gives me the tingles. So I was just telling Joel earlier, it was a very energetic day today, very draining. I think Joel too was telling me he's had quite the day with the storm happening in Texas. But I had my first dance party in the shower tonight. Like I've always heard of, everybody do these dances, and what do they call it? What's the spiritual dance they talk about all the time? Do you know what I'm talking about? Is it eccentric dance or expressive?
I'm not sure.
I can't remember what it is, but I know there's parties in the jungle and people do it all the time, and it's just like this spiritual thing. And I never got into it, but I realized even in the shower, my ego is so present. I'm alone dancing in the shower, and I'm having the best time, and I can catch myself going, that was a stupid move. Like, not even kidding. I catch myself going, that would have looked dumb. And then right after that, I catch my ego going, that was a pretty sick move. I just couldn't just be with my dancing. I couldn't just be there with it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's what's that song actually I love? It's by Janelle Monáe called Tip on the Tightrope. The tightrope. You can't get too high, you can't get too low. You gotta tip on the tightrope.
I like that.
That groove, man. Yeah.
Anyway, well, I got my dance on tonight, and it was pretty fun. So we were talking when we got on a chat the other day about, we're in the mental health space. I guess I'm a big, it means a lot to me, mental health and especially men's mental health. Like you and I have chatted about that a lot. We're talking about our bodies though, and how a lot of people, we get into our meditations and, maybe our mindset stuff, but how many of us forget about our vessels, our physical bodies? Mm-hmm. So tell me what that means to you and how you honor that.
Well, yeah, I 100% agree. I think growing up through the spiritual traditions of Southern Baptist Christianity gave me a very strong mental and spiritual focus, but the body was definitely at bay. And so in my adulthood, reconnecting to the body and recognizing the equality of the 3-in-1, mind, body, spirit, and they all can impact each other in inverse ways, right? One brings the other up, balance the other out. And so sometimes in the practice, it's like, I'll go to my usual go-tos, my meditation, my journaling, my seeking with my mind. And then I found yoga. And I serendipitously like kind of happened on like a Groupon for hot yoga or something and just dove in. And it was beautiful. I had an amazing, sweat and like this communion with the whole crew.
Yeah.
But then that evening I went to a gig it was a standing gig. I used to play at this like sushi bar in college.
Nice.
And it was great, man. And I remember sitting on my chair at the gig, and I was like upright, one, and two, I had so much energy and balance, and everything was just way more effortless than I've ever felt it. And my whole being was blooming. And I would get comments. I've been playing there for a couple of years at this point, and I would get comments from people, who knew me and who were regulars, and they're like, "Man, your energy is like so beautiful. It's like you're always, great or whatever, but tonight there's a level up." So that began to like, wake me up to the body.
Mm-hmm.
So that, and then I fill in a book like You Can Heal Your Life, or The Body Keeps a Score, The Body Doesn't Lie, Body Testing, David Hawkins, and all that stuff just woke me up to the fact that we are manifesting our lives always, but from all three, from the
Yep.
mind, the spirit,
Mm-hmm.
body, right? That emotional anxiety we'll feel in our body, or when you get angry, right? You won't even recognize, well, maybe you recognize your heart rate will increase. But if you're angry, right, and you haven't learned how to manage it well yet, you might feel your fists clench up a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
tension. And so that really woke me up. So really learning how to listen to my body, the intellect of the body, has been a beautiful challenge and journey over the last, I don't know, decade plus, since those times where it first became very real for me.
Mm-hmm. That hits because I did a spiritual retreat. I did a month long, they call it the Moon Course in Guatemala, in a place called Lake Atitlan. And we went into, we did 7 a.m. yoga. It was 10 a.m. meditation, followed by metaphysics and another meditation in the evening. And the only yoga I had done was a few hot yoga classes when I was in my early 20s. And I was like, I'm never doing this again. Just give me the weights, show me the bench press, and I'm good. That's where I was at the time. And when I went to the pyramids, yes, that's where it is. It's Las Piramides that's the first thing you're doing in the morning. And I remember the first class going, oh my God, how am I going to do this? But within 3 or 4 classes, I started to realize how I opened up, and I opened up in ways that I physically, obviously, everything started to move, but the energy moving through my body, like my meditations got deeper. The energy through my body got stronger. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm opening these channels now. And I remember coming back from that retreat and then getting I was in hypnosis, I believe. I was doing some healing in hypnosis, and I was starting to channel. And a lot of it that came through is my ego and the body, and how I've always associated being big and strong with fitness, right? And I would look at the yoga stuff, and even after I got back from that retreat, I pushed the yoga aside, and they kept reminding me like, this movement, this is so much, there's so much more here than you understand. Mm-hmm. And so that brings me back to what we talked about earlier, because were you lifting weights at the time when you found yoga?
Wow. A little bit. I was definitely way more into practicing the guitar at that time.
Right.
I would do,
Yeah. So let's talk about, because you said you got to like 240 pounds at one point.
Oh yeah.
And you're 6'2", so you're like, that's a big boy. 240, 6'2".
I was a big boy.
Talk about that for a minute, and what your goals were. How old were you then when you were that big?
I was probably around 27-ish, I think, when I got to 240. I remember when I was in high school, I was about 190, 195. And I had, for some reason, I had in my mind, I was like, oh, I want to be 225. I feel like that would be like a good weight, like all of these ideas we have about what it is to be a man, and you have to be big and all this stuff. And then, somewhere in my mid-20s, I went from being like 205, 215, 235, 240. It was just like, what the grown man weight, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so I was like, oh, I got to start working out again, because at this point in my life, I was just I was doing some yoga and some meditation, but I wasn't really working out. Played a little basketball,
Yeah.
and got back in the gym and started lifting, and I got bigger, and I was like, I don't need to get bigger. I don't. I already feel sluggish. I feel like I'm doing too much, and so over time, I recognized, I had to experiment with what my body was telling me was the right thing. And over time, I realized it's like, for me, in my frame, I have to lift lightweight, right? Lightweight, high reps. And that made me, balance out, even out, because my body just does that in its own way. But I learned through that time, it's like, why did I gain so much weight? It was a manifestation of so much of the emotional and
Oof.
spiritual weight and baggage that I had been hanging on to, that I hadn't learned how to work through yet.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Interesting. Man, when we were talking, remember when I said we talk about ego in the body a lot, and I was telling you that my whole life, well, I was telling you about my body dysmorphia, like, and
Mm-hmm.
it's something it's still kind of, it's hard for me to talk about, but anybody who's been even overweight as a kid, and when that's been an issue, how much that's challenged them and maybe affected them. That same thing happened to me being a skinny kid. Being a rail. Like, I was an athlete, always a really like decent athlete, but I was always 6 foot lanky and just like skin and bones, no real shoulders, no nothing. So basically, when I hit 18, it was like, I'm going to the gym and I'm going to get as big as I flipping can. Like, and because that's all, I just didn't want to be called skinny ever again. And it was like, that was my goal forever and ever. And then I got to that point where I got to 205. I think it said I got to 215 at one point, but this is not, I don't have the frame for 215. And like, the body was just like, but the ego loved it. I remember walking around like this and just loving getting the look. And I just remember what that did for me in my joints and everything else. But it took me probably 12 years of it being in the gym for me to realize like that 190 pounds for me is like where I actually feel good, look good, can perform. If I want to go throw a frisbee on the beach, I can run and get it, not just, fall over. So it's really interesting how, and even taking my shirt off now, I'm 37 years old, and it takes a lot.
Wow.
It takes a lot. And I don't know what it is. Like, I know I have some deeper wounding, but it's like, for me to take my shirt off, even when I'm in the best shape I am, I'm second guessing. I'm going, I don't know. And then one day I'll look in the mirror and I'll be like, wow, I really like how things are coming together. The next day I will look in the mirror and I will pick apart things and I'll be like, it changes. Like, it looks like two different people. So I think I have some work to do there. Just being vulnerable and open here.
That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful for you to be vulnerable. I always say that vulnerability is our superpower.
100%.
It's like, you think about what we're talking about here. It's like these binary definitions of what it means to be a man,
Yeah.
a woman, are just the toxic masculine ideas that are pervasive in society, right? And on the extreme end, there's abuse, sexual abuse, and harm and misogyny. But young men, right, before they're like 13, 12 years old, are a lot more open, a lot more sensitive. And it's okay for a young man at that age, right, to be in that space. But as you're getting closer to adulthood, there's usually this shift that happens, right, within society and within the community and within the home, where it's no longer to be that way, right? Like, it's not okay for you to be a skinny man. And it's like, what are these messages that we're telling people? And
Right.
And I'm using toxic masculinity to point at a larger issue of one, binary systems, two, this incessant projecting that we do, right? And it goes like this. Who are you? You're Joey. You're a man. You're a white man. You want to be a real man, you got to be a big man.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
got to be a strong man. A strong man doesn't have feelings. A strong man
Mm.
doesn't cry. A strong man is stoic. He doesn't project any sense of disturbance or harm or hurt, right? Or even anger when he's angry, right? He shows his power. That's power. That's not power. That's fear.
Mm-hmm.
All of that is fear, right? And so it's like, how do we sit with our discomfort, right? Because that's the first thing. Because as soon as someone projects onto you, being the sensitive souls that we are, because we are divinely connected as one, we always feel each other, whether we want to or not, whether we project, whether we make our hearts
Sure.
cold and numb, we feel each other always. So how do we stay open and deal with the discomfort? And it's by learning to accept ourselves unconditionally and recognize the truth. It's like, I can never tell you how to be Joey. What a soul called Joey came down here to do, to create
Mm-hmm.
what you came, where you came from, where you're going to, how you're going to collab with all the beautiful things you're doing. And so I'm much more excited about a world that embraces vulnerability, embraces open heartedness, and embraces the fact that we are here, 7 billion plus human beings roaming this planet. And we're nobody, no two are alike, whether you're a twin, a quadruplet, whatever you want to be, no two are alike. We were here, we were brought here to be unique, to bring something very unique and special to this plane. And nobody can tell you what that is, right? You have to know for yourself.
Have you always felt this way? Have you always had that? Because, and I know you've had challenges along the way. I guarantee there's been ego and there's been wounding and things you had to heal. But when did this become, this seems like a mission for you? Like I can feel it. I can feel it every time you talk, every time you make a video. What you put, like my eyes are welling up a little bit because I can feel the energy. When did that become your mission? Because, or part of your mission? Because I feel it deeply. I know it's exactly how I feel. So tell me a little about that.
Yeah, I think so. For me, I've always been hypersensitive. Is what I'm going to use right now.
Yeah.
And I mean that it's like aperture, right? I don't know if you guys are familiar with like camera and the technical terms for the lens, but the aperture basically describes like your iris, right? It gets smaller or bigger. When there's low light, it gets bigger to receive more light. And when there's a lot of light, it gets smaller to receive less light, right? Light being our energy. So I felt like mine has always just been wide open and I can't close it. So I'm going to go back to what you asked me, like, had this always been my mission? My entire life, the first half of my life, I could feel what other people were feeling. And I
Yeah.
knew how to express it to them or be there for them. And I spent a lot of time being a peacekeeper, right? Keeping my mouth shut, trying to give them the space to iron out their things and doing it in what the Buddhists would call idiot compassion. You love them, you care, but you're operating in a way that's more enabling than actually
Right.
supporting, along a healthier path because I didn't have the tools. And so knowing that and feeling that throughout my journey as I've gained better tools and opened even more, became even more sensitive to the energy, I realized that all the souls are trying to ground that energy from someone who told them they were too skinny. They were
Right.
wrong. They're not good at this thing that they love,
Right.
that lift them up.
Yeah.
That started when they were a young child, right? Probably before the age of 7 and their default mode network kicked in, right? And so for me, I'm like, as I healed enough,
Yep.
I recognize that the natural next step in my healing process was to be a conduit for the healing journey of others. Not that my own personal journey will ever end.
Sure.
I know that at this point in my journey, it's time for me to step into this role and to play my part, right? But I've known my whole life. I remember being a young kid, I was like, I always had this thing, like I knew I had things to say. It was like my turn to speak. Being the baby brother, seventh
Right.
child, right, in a big house, right? Lot of loud voices, beautiful
Right.
voices, loud and intimidating for a hypersensitive person, right? Who was oftentimes misunderstood. So I would, I'd be in my corner, reading my books, playing my music, be on my computer, doing my thing. Very introverted kid. But I've always known, and even to this day, it's like I can feel the energy of others. And so like when I get on my live, I can feel when there's someone whose heart is really heavy. And so in that moment, I say a prayer. I say a prayer. What I don't think what people realize is when they come to my lives, I don't perform. Performance is something I gave up on years ago. Like I'm not, and what I mean is performing as an entertainer, right? You're not, I think you've been to my lives and witnessed me playing very chilled out, spiritual music. Because for me, it's about the energy and the frequency and the vibration. Saying prayers for those souls, I'm holding space for those souls. And I'm sending them as much love and light and compassion as I know how to give.
It resonates so much because it's exactly how I feel every Sunday.
Ooh.
We get together Sunday, we meditate. You've been there a few times with me.
It's marvelous.
I'm just so honored and grateful to be able to be the person that brings everyone together. Number one, like I can't thank people enough. Like I get worked up, but the goal is to always just to be able to hold space, create a space where people can have their own unique experience. And it brings me back to a kid too. And I was super hypersensitive my whole life. And I didn't really realize, I think part of me thought everybody was like this, but then a part of me always felt so different because even playing sports, I talk about this a lot. We'd win a big baseball game or we'd win a tournament and I'd see the sadness on the other team's face. And that's where my focus would go. Like, instead of being excited and happy, there's always that part, okay, we won, but there's always that part of like even watching a World Series as a kid or a football game and seeing the other team lose, that I would always go there. And I didn't understand. Like I always was like, man, those people are feeling terrible. They work so hard too. And like, I've always been that. Commercials, like I cry all the time. It's just one of those things that I am. And I think there was always a part of me wondering if I was man enough. And I think that goes with the body image, being skinny, the hypersensitivity, taking on so much. And I think it's I'm connecting dots right now as we speak. Ooh, but
like it.
part of this is to show others like, man, there is no one way to be a man, like you said. And I don't know. I just feel so
ways to do so, right?
Yeah. I don't even know where I was going with this, but yeah, it's such a amazing. I'm just so grateful to be able to do that on Sundays with everyone and give them that space. It's just unreal.
Yeah.
So
that's powerful.
Your lives are the same. I'm like, how do you not chill out in your lives? Jeez, how do you not feel better leaving there? I'm like,
let's do it. Let's do it.
What do you think? So look at all the pressures we had. We grew up in about the same era. And now you look at social media and the pressures with, just teenagers in general, kids in general. Like, I never had an Instagram account that I had to compare my body image to, and I already had an issue with it. Like, I can't even imagine what they're going through.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Do you feel it's one of your jobs or one of your responsibilities or one of your goals to like kind of change what social media is, or just create somewhere different for people like that to go to?
Indeed. I think it is a big failing on our part to continue to blame social media for being social media when we are the ones creating all the content.
Right.
Social media.
Right.
They are creating algorithms based on our responses. I'm not saying that Facebook and all these companies have our best interest in mind, because it's obvious that they don't, right?
Right.
What I'm saying is, are we going to transform it? Are we going to
Right.
take responsibility for the fact that many of us are seeking attention and love from the outside in and not from the inside out, and creating a space? So my mission with social media, I mean, if you go to my page, right, I think you guys know, like, I don't know what the trends are. I don't, and not that
Right.
that's a horrible thing in and of itself, but for me, I want to create my page as a safe space. We are creating this world. We are creating what our communities, whether they be virtual or tangible in the physical realm, right? So, yeah, I can blame social media just like I can blame any other group I want for all of my misery, but I'm the one who's still going to be miserable,
Ooh.
right? So, how do I self regulate enough to recognize that I have chosen this suffering on a certain level, whether
Hmm.
it's conscious or unconscious, two, heal it, see it, be with it, and then three, transform it, right?
Well, you said it the other day. Are we going to wake up and choose to be a creator or a victim?
Indeed.
You said it, and then those words hit me hard. Do we wake up choosing? Are we going to create, or are we going to be the victim here?
Hmm. Yeah.
Because we have a choice every single day,
Every day,
every moment.
every moment. And I want to clarify, because I know that was our conversation, but for everyone who's in here, for me, I don't mean that there aren't moments where we aren't the victim to certain
Sure.
things, because that's a part of our existence, right? But I mean the energy of a victim, right? And connecting this to the ancestors, my ancestors, I think the Africans who were brought to America and were African American slaves, for them to break through that kind of suffering. It's like I read Frederick Douglass. I remember being senior year of college, last semester, the worst case of senioritis ever. I didn't want to do anything, man. I was done. And I was studying for, whatever last exams I had coming up in Starbucks, and I was procrastinating. I was online listening to music. And then I had Frederick Douglass's A Narrative of a Slave. And I was reading it and reading his whole story. And I've read this story dozens of times and heard it throughout my childhood.
Hmm.
The first time I actually breathed it in.
Ah,
And I mean, his story, he was mixed. His mother was probably raped by his owner, right?
got it.
And so he was in the house, and the owner's wife was teaching him how to read. And so there was an argument and a tussle, and he was basically arguing with his wife, like, you can't teach them how to read, because if you do, then they'll think they're like us.
Hmm.
And so he heard that and he remembered that. And throughout his childhood, he would trade his lunch to the white kids coming home from school so that they would teach him how to read. Yeah, right? Like
Whoa.
that level of commitment to it. And then as an adult, he was well educated, educated himself, but he reached a point where he created freedom within himself, where he knew he was a free man, regardless of the fact that there was a legal tender that said he belonged to this person. And so anytime that someone treated him as anything other than a free man, he would stand up like a free man. Meaning,
Oof.
if his slaver was whipping him because he was acting free, he would fight his slaver. And he did so for many years until he finally escaped. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm in college. All I have to do is sit Starbucks,
Right.
listen to my jams on Spotify, right? And like go to class and do the thing, right? And this, my ancestors went through this so that
Yep.
my ancestors' wildest dream, right? And so I'm thinking, long view, I want my descendants or the descendants of our culture to be our wildest dream. So what is that, right? And what are we doing to stand up for that? You know, I think about my journey being a Black man in an RV traveling the country alone, and that's a whole other thing. that.
Man, we can have probably a whole show on that. I'd love to hear about your journey. I haven't talked to you about all about that. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, there's layers, but I guess all that to say, getting back to the why, right? Social media, showing up as victims, being a creator or a victim.
Right.
It's an energy, it's a mindset, right? Or it's, what's that other parable? It's the frogs in a hole, or maybe it's mice. I don't know what the rodent was. And right, and one's deaf and one can hear, and there's the other frogs on top, and they're all telling them, "Man, save your energy and just stay there. There's no way you're going to be able to jump out. You're going to die, whatever." So the one who can't hear, eventually, or the one who can hear, is taking it in, absorbing that,
right,
believing it, and eventually dies in that hole. And the other one finally makes it out after an extended period of time.
Sure.
And they're like, "Why did you do that?" And he's like, "I thought you guys were cheering me on."
That's perfect.
I love it. It's all about our ability to narrate and edit our story in a way that serves our greatest good.
That was beautiful, man. Thank you. So tell me this. So we talked a little bit about what wakes us up. You said what makes me up. So tell me a little bit, because we talked about the importance of our routine or our spiritual practice.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about yours, and I want to touch on mine and how they differ.
Sure. What wakes me up? That question. It's a very specific question, and I remember thinking about this the freshman in college, because I had all this time now. I was used to 8 hours in school every day, and I have 2 classes and a whole day off. So I was journaling, and I was like, time was just very loud spiritually. And I was like, what's our most valuable asset? It's got to be time, but not just any time, right? Because throughout the day, as our energy wanes at another hour or so, that time is going to be more low energy. And so I was like, maybe the first fruits of our time, what's setting the foundation and the trajectory of our day? Because we have these subconscious mantras every morning that are there. And so I was like, okay, the morning. So what wakes most of us up is keeping food on the table, right? Creating enough to take care of our responsibilities.
Yep.
And most of us are miserable at work because it's not soul fulfilling in the way that we would like. It's taking care of what we need to do. And so I was like, you know what? Or for me at the time, it was school, right? In college. And I was like, you know what's going to be the reason I wake up? Connecting to the divine. Right? So I started waking up an hour earlier before whatever time I was getting up to meet my other obligations. And I would just read, I would meditate, I would pray, I would study. And I began to recognize how that shifted my entire world by making my own personal well-being and my connection to something greater than myself shifted my entire life.
Yep.
And it's just, it ended up being an hour, but at first it was 15 minutes. I definitely hit the snooze button a lot. It was a transition. But creating that morning practice of simply checking in.
Oh, yep. Exactly.
You can check in with whatever your divine connection is, with self, higher self, God, any number of deities. But at the end of the day, it's the intention.
100%.
So, yeah, what wakes me up is the divine intention of making myself available to witness what I've never witnessed before about myself, so that I may heal and grow and live a more fulfilling life.
Damn. It literally takes, I think it took me 2 to 3 days of my practice in the morning to change my life. It wasn't weeks or months. I started to realize it instantly.
Yeah.
I read a few books. I started listening to Abraham Hicks. We talked about her a little bit, Esther. Yeah. And understand, one of the biggest things she taught me was, your eyes, you start to wake up. And like you said, most of us are like, oh, I gotta get in the shower. Oh, I hit the snooze button 3 times. Now I'm late. I got to go to this job I hate, blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden your momentum's going. It's already going. And now you're either going to keep going with the momentum or you're going to find a way to slow it down or stop it. But most of us kind of keep going with it. When I started to just take a minute in bed, and she talks about the first 17 seconds. She says it takes 17 seconds to create that appreciative, that gratitude, that feeling of excitement. And she's like, it's as simple as just laying in your sheets. Feel your sheets, feel your duvet, feel the cushion, feel your pillow, feel the air in your lungs. 17 seconds, and that will trigger another thought. 17 seconds, another 17 seconds, think of something else that feels good. And then when you hit the floor, when you start your day off like that, you go from doing the other, the opposite of, oh, I got to do this, to, wow, I get to wake up, I get to create, I get to tap in. And for me, it's you said checking in. I made a video about it a few days ago, checking in with your higher self, checking in with divine, God, it doesn't matter. But the more you do it, the stronger it gets. Mm-hmm. The stronger it gets. And then you just know. And I said a few days of doing my new practice in 2018, I think it was winter of 2018. It was like felt like I was reborn. I felt like I discovered the key of life. I didn't understand what was happening. And I remember reading the book, The Magic, which I talk about all the time. It's a gratitude book that started everything for me. They talk about how it's going to quickly change for you, and you're going to start to just be in this different world, it seems. And sure enough, like you say, how do you cultivate gratitude? I really loved how you put that the other day. How do I cultivate gratitude?
Yeah.
So how do you do it? Do you have a few things that really get you in that heart-filled joy in the morning?
It's very similar to what you're describing, and I don't know if I also heard it from Esther Abraham Hicks or some other means. But my morning ritual, my eyes open. I usually, like, what I love about being in the campers, I'm so, like, the walls are thin.
Yeah.
You hear the birds in a way, or just nature, whatever's happening.
Right.
And that for me, like, connects me instantly. And I'm like, oh, I'm so thankful.
Yeah.
And so I just try to go down the list of everything that feels resonant that I can really be thankful for in the morning. I try not to, when I say resonant, I mean, of course, I've got a million things, right?
Sure.
That I can always name, but I want to align with the energy of the moment as well. So some days, right, some relationships may feel heavier than others, or other things. And I've learned, for me, it's like this dance. So the principle is the ritual. What I mean by that, the principle of gratitude is the ritual, but the list of things that I could be gratitudinous for every day, right?
Yeah.
I don't want that to be the ritual. It's not the same list every day. So I want to connect, right? So today or tomorrow, I might be like, man, I'm so grateful for the opportunity to talk with Joey Labassiere.
Right.
And what a humbling honor to be invited to connect and share, right? Or, I got to see my sister and my nieces today, and that's such a gift I'm thankful for.
Right.
So that's like the kind of gratitude. And I try to make sure, because I think there's patterning a lot of time.
Of course.
Can be the tightrope we walk. And I've learned that if I have the principles, sorry, my light.
You're good.
If I have the principles together, based on gratitude, which is in a state of abundance, which means having and not wanting.
Yeah.
That's mean a state of joy, right? So now I've shifted my energy. Then I go into a state of checking in, right? So I have that going, and then I might play some music. I might just be, just like in my space, like this, like keep myself in like that alpha brainwave state, not all in beta, and just like, okay, how's my heart? How's my energy? How's my body? Sometimes asking how's my heart doesn't quite get me there, so I check in with my body. Is my body feeling good? Right? The body doesn't lie either.
Right.
So maybe I'm a little tense or tender in my knee or my leg. Like, what's that about? Is that just the long walk, or is there something else there? And so I try to commune with the intellect of my body, my mind, and my spirit, whatever is resonant, to check in, or my higher self, or God, or the divine.
Sure.
And then I'll write, just like write in my
Yeah.
write or meditate. It's really a meditation is the next principle. So it's gratitude, checking in, and then a meditation. And so that can look like so many other things. Like I
Sure.
can sit quietly in meditation, I can journal and meditate, I
Yeah.
can meditate, but it's focusing my attention,
Yeah.
turning awareness to.
Yeah.
Then with that attention focused, I can then set an intention and an affirmation for my day.
And then momentum from there. It's almost effortless, right?
Yeah.
That's when that you're in that flow state, that alignment, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same. And then it's that beautiful text from someone, or it's the the phone call from an old friend, or it's the you hit every green light in traffic. And I've had that happen more than once. And you get, or maybe you have to go to Costco or something for something that first parking spot's waiting for you, or it's just all these things that happen. And it's all about how you start your day.
Yeah. Well, it's you know what I'm thinking of? It's kind of like brushing your teeth. We take care of our body, right? We wipe the crust from our eyes so we can
Yeah.
smell, right? We brush our teeth so our food tastes fresh and not like yesterday.
Yeah.
But it's like cleansing your soul, like like your energy, so that you're able to take in today fresh. Because the other thing I thought about, there's always an incessant energy exchange, right? Between you and I, right? And the other beautiful souls in this live. We're all having an exchange right now that probably we can't name precisely, but we're taking in and giving, right? Giving and receiving. And that's always happening. And when we're in environments that are challenging or unknown, and maybe we can't always be available to everything that's going on because there's sensory overload. But when you go to bed, you try to sleep, there's still the residue of yesterday. So we have to clear the channel, right? Our spiritual food for today doesn't taste like yesterday,
I can listen to you talk all day. Man. So what would you like? Let's talk about your meditations. Are they always different? Because when I started to meditate and also talk about meditation, one of the most important things I tell people is, it doesn't have to look a certain way. It doesn't have to be so serious either.
Oh.
People take it so they gotta sit cross-legged straight up. They gotta, get, and they put so much pressure on themselves and what meditation is. What's one of the, in your journey, what do you find one of the best ways, or what's one of your biggest tips when it comes to someone who's just starting to connect that way?
One, if they're just starting to connect through meditation, I first like to demystify a little bit of meditation and make it more plain. It's not just, a yogi sitting in full lotus underneath a tree, and just eyes closed for weeks.
Right. Exactly.
That is one of countless variations of meditation. And my favorite definition for meditation is just turning attention to, right? And so flow state is maybe the easiest connective point, because I think most of us, if have competed not professionally, but just competed as an athlete, musician, creator, or as a writer, or whatever it is you love to do, you'll reach that point where you're just in it and it just feels like a thing. And next thing you know, it's like 4 hours later and you've like, that was amazing. I don't even know how I did that, or what whole thing came out of it, right? And to me, that's meditation, being present. Your attention focus is so in that thing, it's nowhere else, right? So I like encourage people to go, what's your bliss? What's that point? If you have too many ideas about sitting in a corner and somebody, like guiding you to breathe or whatever it may be, or just, I think one of the most common frustrations is I can't control my thoughts. I can't quiet my thoughts. I
Sure.
can't. And it's like, okay, well, don't worry about that. You're not supposed to.
Right. Exactly.
That's what you think that this is what you're supposed to be doing. You've misunderstood. So
100.
let's back up. Let's redirect. Maybe shift the energy somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because
Wow.
honestly, yeah, man, I think my first meditation was journaling, and that happened
Yeah.
just through it naturally flowed. I was going through a frustrating time. It was in a breakup. Heart was broken. I wasn't sleeping well. And then after many people have been telling me about journaling, I just like, woke up in the middle. Well, not woke up, got out of bed.
Right.
And just wrote down everything that I was feeling in like my college mead notebook,
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I was done, slept like a baby. Felt like
Right.
pounds had been lifted, and didn't even realize that I had been writing for like almost 2 hours because I actually sat with my emotions finally.
Yeah.
And I wasn't in a place where I could sit quietly with
Yeah.
them. I just allowed that energy to be released, but I was with it,
It's exactly what happened tonight. It was a long day, a lot going on, and I set my intention to just go in the shower, and that was going to be my meditation before here.
Yeah.
I said I'm just going to let the water do its thing, and me and water, we have a relationship, and I sat there, I had the music on, the water just kind of ran down, and then I started dancing, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not even in control. Like it just felt like I needed to do this, so my body moved, and my body moved, and my body moved, and that was what I needed. That was my meditation. Yeah, the ego came in once in a while, and but I came back and I went right back to what I was focusing, and I was focused on just the movement of whatever my body wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened when I say about a year ago, I was in my living room and I'm stretching. My hamstrings were tight, and same thing. I had some music playing in the background. I started just stretching. First, like I was, before a big game, and then all of a sudden, I was like dancing through these movements of stretching and breathing, and it was this yoga, dancing, stretching connection, and all of a sudden I went in this deep trance. Like I was so present, but yet I think I went about 25-30 minutes of this like my body opened up, my mind was clear, my connection with spirit was just so strong. And same thing that night, I went to bed, and it's like my body felt different. Everything changed, and I just went, whew, like I was gone. I slept so deep. So I got tingles down my left side right now. But
you and me both, my man.
Yeah,
that's it. That's the flow, right?
That's the flow. Why wouldn't we want to, do our best to get into that every day,
Mm-hmm.
But then, so here's something interesting too. My routine has been so instrumental, so critical. So it's just been a really important part of my life. Do you find there's a fine line of being attached to that routine? Because I've found that, I didn't get this done today. Or this kind of went off the rails, but I didn't do my routine today. Like,
yeah.
What do you do there when you catch yourself kind of being so attached to it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And attached, I think, is the key word, right? And that's the tricky one. And that was one of the reasons I was trying to make a distinction between the principles of my morning ritual versus the actual action and the tangible ways to access those principles. Because I found that attachment is really like this tender thing where if you think about flow, you think about water, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like water can be in any form, right?
Of course.
A gas, a liquid, but whatever form it is, it might take the shape of its container for a moment, right? Maybe in a cup, maybe in our bodies, maybe out of our bodies, maybe in our sweat, maybe in the rain, but it always transforms, and it's still water.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is the thing to learn about ourselves is that I love Joe Dispenza because he talks about our energy and our emotions and our personality in this very beautiful description. And he says, our energy is like let's say you and I have a fight, right? So next day I'm talking to another friend. He's like, "How you doing, Joey? You all right?" "Nah, man, I'm kind of annoyed, you know. This guy Joey, you know, I don't know. We had like a moment." And so maybe I don't work it right. I'm in an unhealthy space in my life. And now that moment becomes a mood,
Mm-hmm.
stagnant. I don't allow it to flow, right?
Mm-hmm.
That mood over a long period of time becomes a temperament, right?
Mm.
And that temperament now becomes a pattern, right? That's how I see the world, through whatever negative lens of whatever my story is about our experience or that thing. And then that pattern now becomes my personal reality, my personality, right? And so often we think we are our patterns, and we are not our patterns. We are so much larger than our patterns, and we can shift them. But we have to let go of this idea that we
Mm-hmm.
are patterns or our personal reality, because we can always recreate our personal reality by simply moving the energy and allowing it to flow.
Have you not written a book yet? Like, at least an audio book. We need you on an audio book, man. It's always such a pleasure to hear your perspective on things. It's you can tell you're a poet and a musician and an artist because it just flows out of you. It's a beautiful thing, man. Um, I'm gonna ask. I'm sure there's people who I'm gonna take a few questions. I'm gonna see if people want to,
Oh yes.
if anybody wants to ask either of us.
It's rare
Yeah.
to like be on a live and not.
Right. Right. So if there's some questions to ask, please. And then, oh yeah, I wanted to ask you about what you got going on. You got a new album,
Oh,
and let's jump into that. You got a new album coming out, and you got kind of a new twist on meditation that you're working on too.
yeah.
So
Okay.
tell us about that.
Well, yeah, I'll start with the meditation first because that just
Please.
came out. And I have two of them. One's called Flow, one's called I Am the Love of My Life. And these are what I call poetic resonance meditations. And along with like the patterning, for me, I've had this idea for 5 or 6 years now of creating a space, an energetic space for people to access whatever they need, whatever that healing light is, right? If it's your higher self, a moment to just cry or whatever. But there's the poetic painting of a story, of a narrative, of an energy that can be interpreted many ways. And it's less about being directed, although, all forms of meditation are so powerful and wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
This is what felt loud for me as what I wanted to contribute, or what I was really called to contribute, at least at this point in my life. So I'm so humbled and honored. My process has been like, okay, I surrender, universe. I don't know what this is going to look like. This
Right.
is intention. I feel like this is a gift,
Yes.
creative,
Yes.
dropped from something bigger than me.
Yes.
Because I don't know, I'm like, I don't know what this is. And
I love it.
I just have, so I set my intention. And when the energy calls, I try to surrender to it. So, flow, I navigated to this beach serendipitously on one Sunday morning when I was in Maine last summer, and I felt the energy. So I just set up my guitar, set up a camera and mic, and played, and it was in the flow. Same thing with the
Good.
meditation, the narrative, and similarly with "I Am the Love of My Life" in the studio that day. If you guys love the guitar, I hope you know that I can never replay that exactly like that, nor would I try, because it was so in.
Oh, that's everything, man. I touch on that too. Is the meditations I go on Sunday. I'm like, here's what I think I'm going to do on Sunday, and then I just allow the flow, that connection. And some nights it's just I get completely taken over, and we
Mm,
go places, and I'm just being guided, and I surrender. I have,
I've I've been a witness to that, and
yeah.
I've said it on your meditation. I was like, I had to lay down in my camper. I was like, oh, this is powerful. After like
Thank you,
just
brother.
this energy. So just know, like, from one soul to another, like what you're doing, the work you're doing is beyond beautiful, beyond transformative. And it seems like you've got a lot more to create and
Uh,
offer.
I
right?
appreciate you, brother, and the same goes for you. I've been in every time I watch you, I'm just in awe of how you can bring your whole soul to a video and to a song and to a message. And it's just no one, I don't see how anybody can watch you and not just be completely absorbed because it's so real and it's so authentic and it's so real. And that's why you're on the show, because this is what it's all about. And I love to be able to connect with another male in this space. And I call you an aligned alpha. You're one of the most heart centered humans I've ever come across. And it's such, I look up to you in a lot of ways. And I know you've had your trials and tribulations and you've been through it, and so have I, but it's so nice to co-create something even like this. So I know we both have a lot more to give and a lot more to do. And yeah, man, so beautiful. So we only have a few minutes left, so I want to ask you a couple questions.
Okay, go ahead.
So these are my final two, I call them. First one, because I'm going to push you to be, you are vulnerable already. Is there anything that you haven't shared that you've been kind of pulled to share? Is there something about you or something that you'd like to express, or even a tip, some guidance that you could share with us today?
Is there something that I haven't shared that I'd like to share?
Maybe about yourself, maybe about your journey, maybe about some of your pain, some of your suffering.
I think one thing that has felt resonant for a while now is just sharing. Maybe at some point I'll share more about some of my suffering. You know, I think people will see me and I'll get this comment like, "Oh, you're so peaceful. How are you so peaceful?"
Right. Oof.
And I'll say it's a practice, but but what I don't say often in those moments is that it's looking your fear in the eye and walking towards it, and knowing, even though your heart and your body may be saying something totally different, right? But knowing that it's just an idea, it's emotion and imagination turned against you. And that belief and that knowing keeps me moving towards it and through it, beyond it. And that's how I connected to a deeper level of peace.
That hits me harder now than ever, just because of what's going on in my life. And yeah, I call it surrendering to your knowing in those moments of fear. Surrendering to that deeper knowing, and you know it, it's pulled you all this way. And yeah, you've resisted it and you've went against it and you've pulled and you've pushed and you've fought, but you just, in those moments, you got to know that you're right. It's an idea. It's not, it's an illusion. And that knowing is always there.
Yeah.
Man. Okay. One more question. What does it mean to be alive for you?
Alive. This is Alive with Joey after all.
What does that mean to be alive?
That's a really great question. What does it mean to be alive? I think it's a really good question. I know it's a really good question. Pointing so I can actually have a really good, because this deserves some thoughtfulness. I think for me it is about connecting to my true desire, my true passion, and my true purpose. And being alive, I guess connecting it to the last thing about fear, is I realized this funny, interesting thing that fear, and fear, right, being the lowest form of existence in its extreme, and love, two sides of the same coin. So if you can walk towards your fear enough to flip the coin over.
Oh.
This has been the funniest thing in my life. Everything that I've been so deathly afraid of has been connected to my greatest joy.
Wow.
And I don't know how to express that to other people, because they're like, you're so fearless that way. And to me, I'm like, I'm not really fearless. I just want to be like
Yeah.
exuberantly alive.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
And I'm recognizing that this fear, this idea of this thing, is the only thing keeping me from doing that.
Man, I can't even express how much that just screams at me, because those biggest leaps of faith are where it's always the scariest. It's always terrifying. But I always say, when you leap, your wings appear.
Ooh,
And
yes.
every time the scariest stuff has always brought the most. And it is joy. It's just this feeling of being alive.
Mhm.
Man, thank you, brother. That was beautiful.
Thank you, man. This has been amazing.
Thank you. So we hit the hour. We're gonna leave people wanting more. We're gonna have to get you on here again.
Oh man, it's
And
been so, I could talk to you all day, man.
man, absolutely. This has been an absolute pleasure. I know people were asking to have you on. Like, so the very first time I even talked about, having this show, everybody's like, you got to get Joel. You got to get Joel.
Oh,
I know, man. I know. I just absolutely know. And it's been a pleasure. I'm honored to have you and share this space with you. And um, I'm going to keep watching you and supporting you. And, you could always reach out to me if you need anything. And man,
definitely.
I don't know. My heart's full.
As is mine. Man.
All right, brother. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in again. Make sure to tune in next week. We'll be back again Wednesday, 7:30 Central. Thank you again.